So you start off by idealizing your perfect life. You imagine that there are no limitations on what you can do or be or have. Imagine that you have all the time and all the money. You have all the friends and all the contacts, all the education and all the experience that you need to accomplish any goal that you could set for yourself. The fear of not achieving your goal, what we call self-limiting beliefs, hold you back more than anything else. And your self-limiting beliefs are not based on reality. That's why you have to constantly think, if I had no limitations, what goals would I set for myself? A journey of 1,000 leagues begins with a single step. The fact is, the hardest part of success is taking the first step in the direction that you want to go.
Something ought to be said about that.
The Bible says that the righteous man falleth 7 times, but he rises again. And so you talked about getting back up again and getting on the horse again and moving forward. Are there any steps in setting that long-term goal that differ from that short-term goal? You know what I mean? Because I think you said something that you tipped on something. You said that sometimes before a person can even begin to deal with their goals, they may need to address and deal with. So that kind of becomes a prerequisite to the goal.
It can be.
Getting through. So that means that in preparing to set a goal, you also have to look at you first. You have to prayerfully kind of say, okay, where am I really? What's really,
am I in a position to accomplish this?
Yeah. And what do I need to do to be in a position?
To identify the obstacles that you'll have to overcome to achieve your goal. You see, between you and any goal that you want to accomplish, there are obstacles. There's something that's holding you back, or you'd already be there. So always ask this question, why aren't you already at your goal? There's always one limiting factor or constraint or bottleneck between you and your goal that sets the speed at which you achieve your goal. So the question is, once you're clear about your goal, and let's say it's a financial goal, is what is the bottleneck that holds you back? Average people always blame their problems on external circumstances. Top people look inside themselves.
For the woman who I was working with, that it took 4 years for her to achieve her goal of becoming a tutor for child actors, those pictures were on her vision board for 4 years. So you don't lose sight of, and every year you have to ask yourself, is this still aligned with my core values? If my core values is teaching and empowering and educating young people, that could change. Someone could be inspired to do something different, in which case, that's a game changer and your whole vision board will change. But for her, that never changed. So keeping those pictures up, keeping that personal commitment to that goal is at the root of it. So it's the ongoing commitment and recommitment to that goal for the greater good of humanity, for the greater good of your own personal development, and then having short-term goals to help you get there, I think are the keys to success. Because if you're not inspired at the end of the day by your own goal, you won't ever achieve it. So if something changes, it's okay to say it changed, but if it hasn't changed and you really still want it, it's got to be front and center.
And when you are excited about what you're doing and you share with other people, they get on board with you.
Yes.
And they actually help you refuel what you're trying to accomplish too. So I think what you're saying is key.
Use committing to certain people to your advantage, people that will not let you off the hook. That's part of the why. Sometimes you don't feel like doing anymore, and the only why is, hey, because I don't want to not keep my word. That's okay, whatever it takes to get you to follow through and create results. Because see, what we want to do to get ourselves to succeed is link pleasure to getting the goal and pain to not getting the goal. That way our brain will be driven to use all of our resources to make it happen. Does that make sense to you? So I know for some of you it may sound negative to say, well, what would it cost me if it didn't happen? But I think if you understand how the human brain works, we want to use the carrot and the stick.
And that's why I think it's also good to make your goals public, or at least semi-public, sharing them with friends and family, because if they know that you're on a deadline, or you've just enrolled in classes, or you're going to be working 2 jobs so that you can get enough money to re-enroll in school or whatever it is, then they'll understand why you're not as available for the next
If they
several
care
months,
about you.
if they care. Yes.
And I think that's an important thing that we have to talk about because everyone is not going to share. And that's something when you set a goal for you and for your family and for your business and for your you have to understand that everyone is not going to share your passion for the goal you set.
That is true.
And then and everyone is not going to support that goal. Because sometimes one of the things that happens, I will never forget, and it was a bad story.
Tell it.
I had a friend years ago. I was doing water aerobics. I had started doing water aerobics at the gym as a workout to help me with my weight goals. And I was going twice a week, and I was doing it, and I was enjoying it, and and I was talking to one of my male friends, and he asked me where, he had called me the night before, and I wasn't available. And he said, "Where were you?" And I said, "I was at the gym." He said, "At the gym doing what?" I said, "I take water aerobics twice a week." He said, "Oh, you ain't gonna lose no weight that way."
Toxic.
Do you understand what I'm
Yes.
saying? And while I said, in my mind, I said, I'm not listening to you, but it stuck in the back of my mind.
Of course, yeah.
And it sent a message to me that said, you're wasting your time. So you have to be very careful, you know, when you share what your goals are with people.
You have to protect.
Yeah,
yes.
you have to protect your goals because everyone won't see what you see.
That's right.
And now, 10 years later, I ran into him, and oh yeah, he does water aerobics at the gym.
Oh, really? Really? Look at that.
That's great. I love that.
Really?
I love that.
You understand?
Now, to achieve big goals, you'll have to have the help and support of lots of people. One key person at a certain time and place in your life can make all the difference. The most successful people are those who build and maintain the largest networks of other people whom they can help and who can help them in return. The more people you know and who know you in a positive way, the more successful you'll be in virtually every part of your life.
Sometimes people not accepting your goal is that they haven't reached a point where they understand the value of that goal.
Yeah.
And where they are may be different from where you are. And so you have to understand it because sometimes you have to travel alone
Yeah. Yeah.
because the people around you aren't in a place to accept what you're seeing. And I learned that the hard way growing up as a young adult because I always had vision for stuff. And folk would be like, what? And then 5 years later, they come back to me and they say, you know what? You remember when you said? And I was like,
Yes.
why you didn't get this 5 years ago before y'all ostracized me and mistreated me because of this? You know what I mean? But the lesson in it for me was you got to understand that everybody may not understand your goal. And sometimes, so when you're expecting your family to be supportive, when you say, I'm trying to build a better relationship with my children, so I'm not going to be going to A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'll go to A and F and maybe G. You know what I mean? And they're like, well, you always did that. And why you go? And so they may not understand. Everybody may not understand, even in the church, because the church world is very active. And they have a whole lot of things going on in church.
Sure.
And when you say, I need to go home at night, I can't go to midweek service and prayer service and this and that because I need to go home and do my kids' homework and feed them dinner and cook for my husband because he's not saved.
Yeah.
And they don't get that. You understand? But if that's a goal that you set for your family,
Yeah.
you have to be able to prioritize that goal.
Yep. Family first.
And say, this is important.
Yep.
Yes.
And I need to do this. And even if everybody else doesn't understand it, and it means y'all see me as not as spiritual as everybody else, or you think that whatever, you have to understand that what you need to do is just as valuable as what everybody else expects from you.
That's right.
The things that are holding you back are usually the lack of a skill, the lack of a quality like self-discipline, or the lack of a particular knowledge or skill, all of which you can learn or acquire. Only 20% of the reasons you are not achieving your goals are on the outside, so always start with yourself. To identify the knowledge, information, and skills you will need to achieve your goal. Remember, to achieve a goal that you've never achieved before, you're going to have to learn things and do things you've never done before. You cannot achieve anything more than you're achieving today with the same level of knowledge and skill that you have today. If you could, you'd already have done it. So identify the skills that you'll have to develop to be in the top 10% of your field. Identify the most important skill, and then identify the number one skill. Now here's a great discovery. Your weakest key skill sets the height of your income and your success. Your weakest key skill, and improving or bringing up that one weak skill or acquiring that one weak skill will enable you to make more progress than any other factor at the moment. You can make more progress by going to work on the one skill that is holding you back more than any other factor. So ask this question: what one key skill, if you developed and did it in an excellent fashion, would have the greatest positive impact on your life? What one skill, if you developed and did it consistently in an excellent fashion, would help you the most to achieve your most important goal? Whatever the skill, write it down, make a plan, and work on it every day.
So I think there's a couple of things. You asked the question earlier in terms of working towards long-term goals. I think working towards long-term goals, you hit the nail on the head. You have to have short-term goals that align with that ultimate goal. So if you know that you want to open a business, which is a major goal, you know you need to have a certain amount of financing, you know you need to have a certain amount of training or education on how to run that type of business, and maybe even marketing skills or whatever. And if it's something different like finding a spouse or getting married and settling down, that's a different longer-term goal. What things are stopping you now? What issues do you have in relationships that repeat themselves over and over that you've never addressed? And go address it, you know, and get the help that you need, the support that you need to tackle those issues head on. For me, and what I coach people and train people to do is, that's why the vision board is so powerful, because every year or throughout the year, you can update the board. So when you accomplish something, you take the picture of that goal off. Like we went to Disney last year, had a great time. That was accomplished. It's a memory we'll keep forever, and that goal comes down. And it's now replaced with a different family goal of things we want to do together in the coming year.
If for some reason you don't achieve your goal by the deadline, simply set a new deadline. There are no unreasonable goals, only unreasonable deadlines. And other things can happen that you hadn't expected that will put your deadlines off. Don't worry about it. Just set a new deadline and go back to work.
You said if it means you may have to get some education or information around your goal. Often we don't want to go that extra step. Sometimes it's going and sitting in a goal setting workshop. Sometimes it's going to a time management, if you know time is your issue.
Sure.
Sometimes it's about going to a time management meeting and letting them show you how to better manage your time. Sometimes it's financial, and you may need to go sit with a financial planner and look at, how do I get out of this? What steps do I need to do? What is a budget?
Yes.
Exactly.
Show me how to create one, and show me how to manage it.
You understand?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really about being honest enough to say, you know what, there are people who are experts at this. And the other thing about that is, you have to believe you're worth the investment.
Yes.
Because a lot of time people don't do things like that because those things cost money. And they don't understand that they are worth the investment.
Yes.
Right.
And that it's an investment in their future that's worth making.
Exactly. I can't tell you how many times people have shut down opportunities to better themselves because of, and in the grand scheme of things, it's a relatively small investment. You know, I know that it costs a lot of money to go back to school and get a degree, but even that is worth it. You know, if you look at the long term, you know, benefits there, taking out some student loans and financing something for a few years with the commitment to yourself that this is going to be your profession, this is going to be your line of work, and of course you're going to make money from it and you'll be able to pay those loans back. You have to be that committed. You know, if you don't put your financial investment and your time investment behind those goals, it's not really a priority.
Yeah.
It's a disalignment between what you say is a value and what you say is a goal, and you know, your actions don't match it.
Yeah,
so
that's true. Yeah.
I think that's a key point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You have to, and I think you just pointed out something. It's not just a financial investment, but sometimes it's a time investment. You know, a lot of time we want to do things, but are we willing to take the time to research? Are we willing to take the time to create whatever product? Are we, you know, because these things take time. None of the things that we get done don't require some sacrifice in terms of time. And sometimes to accomplish your goal, you have to literally sit and say, you know what? I can't go hang out with my friends tonight because I need to sit and do this. Y'all been hearing me say, I'm on a mantra. You know, I got 9 days. I have 9 days to accomplish. I got a goal. I need to finish some stuff before I can do something else I need to do. And so when people are calling me saying, well, can you come do this for me? Right now, no, I can't. Can you, you know, and sometimes in the interest of your goal, you have to be able to say, no, I can't.
Yes.
So I think the other thing that's important is understanding that you have to feel that what you're trying to accomplish is important enough to say no.
To make it a priority.
Yeah,
Yes.
you have to make it a priority because life will bring to you millions of things to keep you busy.
You see, focus and concentration are the keys to success. Focus means that you are clear about exactly what it is that you want to accomplish, and concentration requires that you dedicate yourself to doing only those things that move you toward your most important goal. Develop the habit of self-discipline. There seems to be a direct relationship between self-discipline and success in every part of life. The number one reason that people don't succeed is because they can't discipline themselves to do the planning and preparation and then the hard work necessary. So how do you discipline yourself? You make a list of everything you have to do during the day, you set priorities on your list, and then you start on your most important task first thing and discipline yourself to keep working. Once you've decided on your most important task, resolve to concentrate single-mindedly on that one task until it's 100% complete.
Well, that's part of the planning for obstacles part is anticipating where the negativity will come, where the pushback will come, and what will be your response. Are you going to get stressed out and take their emotions on and let them affect you in that way? Or are you going to stand strong and say, nope, this is my commitment, this is why I'm doing this? Or not even with explanation, but, you know, I'm working on some things, I'm just not available right now. You know, you don't have to make yourself completely transparent to the whole world. I mean, if that's your personality style and that works for you, that's great. But I always say, you know, at the end of the day, just be clear on why you're doing things and why you're not doing other things. And the putting people in your space that are positive, like-minded people, and if you don't have enough of those, then seek support and inspiration elsewhere.
So what I hear you saying is that setting a goal and committing to the goal allows you to focus
You
your
have to
actions
focus.
Yes.
on what you're trying to accomplish. You
Exactly.
have to stay focused, and you can't be dissuaded by other than because there are opportunities, and you're saying opportunities. It doesn't mean that there's something bad.
And they're not, yeah.
But it could be something that if you do it, it may be beneficial, but it detracts you from achieving the goal. So sometimes doing what you've planned to do to get that one thing accomplished means that you have to put on some blinders and just keep it moving. So I think that also that plays into you feeling good enough about yourself
And your goal.
and your goal.
Yes.
Right? Because what happens if you don't accomplish the goal? You know what I'm saying? Not only does it make you feel like, gee whiz, I failed at this, but you know, you there was something that you were hoping to get done. Maybe other people are depending upon you for this goal to be accomplished. You know, what are you thinking about? So that focus thing, it's what's standing out to me about what you're saying.
You have to focus.
Yeah.
There's another quote that I'll share because it's so powerful. It's the words of Mary Kay Ash. It's near and dear to my heart. Anything you want for your life is achievable if you want it bad enough, and if you're willing to do the work to get it. I find that is what drives me.
There you go.
If it's important enough to be on my vision board, if it's important to my family, if it's in alignment with my core values, and it's worth my time and emotional investment, I want it bad, then I will do whatever I need to do to achieve it. And when I say that, I mean obviously in a good way. You know, but
What kinds of things can they do to create that support environment?
yes, so it's things like that. It's listening to inspirational, motivational CDs in the car while you're driving. It's listening to music that inspires you. It's taking some time to journal. You know, I know these days people don't write anything anymore. They type everything, or we're on the internet. You know, I sometimes tell people if we just put our phones down for like an extra hour a day, didn't look at them and didn't worry about Facebook and who's pinging you and instant messaging you, and go back to the basics of some of the things we were taught, you know, growing up, like a diary, a journal, or just sitting there meditating, as I mentioned earlier, it'll just clear your head from all that negativity. You can literally press the delete button and you can start and refresh and start the day anew. I take hot baths when I need to decompress. And I do something that I enjoy, you know, like going dancing or singing, you know, or listening to other people sing. Those are things that really inspire my soul. So I think those are some of the things we can do to keep ourselves on track.
True. And you said read books. And the other thing, one of the other things that I did that, and I still do, is I seek out people who are doing what I want to do that are ahead of me.
Yes.
And then I kind of research them. And I look at how they got where they wanted to go. What steps did they often, and the, you know, the internet can be bad, but it can be good if you use it right. You know, and so there's loads of information about people and success, and so sometimes just looking at that and looking at, you know, I mean, TED Talk is available. There's loads of things on TED Talk. Values.com does some stuff. I mean, there are these sources that you can actually reach out to that will just kind of create that support and then, you know, who's in your community? Who's in your sphere of influence? Who's around you? You know, there is often a wealth of information right in our backyard. There are people we sit next to in church every Sunday that have information and are resources that we don't even know about.
Sure.
There are people at the gym that we go to the gym with that can be resources, but we don't, and I'm bringing this up because I think communication is important to goal setting, building that network of people, you know, talking to people. Many of the people that have inspired and encouraged my dream have been people that I've just met, like, by the way, like, hey, how are you today? You, sometimes you don't know who's around you because we don't communicate. We don't talk to people. And sometimes just saying hi, you know, and having that communication, you don't know. And I'm not saying just go out, and you can't do it with an agenda. But I just believe that when we build healthy relationships with others, often those relationships end up helping us to grow and helping us to further our goals, because we find out that we're not alone and that others are very. I was telling a young lady recently, she was talking about her child, and she was saying how she feels slightly isolated. She's a parent. She's not a single parent, but it's her husband, and her child. And I said to her, well, what relationships do you have? You know, who have you? I said, you know, your daughter goes to school. There are other mothers there. Do you know any of them? She said, you know, I said, yeah. You know,
To explore that a little bit.
yeah, explore the commonalities. You know, because most of the time when we have commonalities like that, we're going through some of the same things. We have some of the same challenges. Sometimes we have similar goals. And we can help each other. You spoke earlier about a walking buddy. Sometimes just in that conversation, you know, I'm trying to, that's a goal that I have too. So yeah, can we meet up and walk to take the kids to school together?
Yeah.
Sometimes you can just set yourself up to be a resource for somebody else also.
Exactly.
There's the next door to me, there was a house that was rebuilt, and the couple that I mean, basically I was really praying that God would set some good neighbors in there, and it was a young family. It was a husband, and his wife, and a child that was about 1 year old. Don't know if it was their first home or whatever, But, when you see somebody that's going through something, I say, oh, by the way, it was like winter. I said, they had this small bag of ice melt. I know that can be expensive. I said, there's a place up in Yonkers that, they usually sell to contractors, but they'll sell retail. I said, you'll save yourself about half. And if you buy a little bit more, it's like, thank you. You know what I'm saying? Make yourself a resource. He said, every time I talk to you, I find out something new. I mean, I know how hard it is to take care of a home.
Because you're a homeowner.
So, you know what? If I can help you,
Sure.
then do that. So, I mean, if you're, who knows? I wasn't trying to get in their business or anything like that.
Sure.
But it might be a situation where later on, if they have a question they need to ask, they won't feel, well, you know what, I'm trying to do this. How can I accomplish this? Do you know anything about this? So that you can set yourself up to help somebody else meet their goals too.
Sure.
So I think that's like the communication thing that you're talking about. And where we live now, nobody wants to say anything to anybody because you don't know if they're going to try to get into your home, get into your life, get into, it's just so closed off from what it used to be that people may have goals, you'll never know it. And if you could have helped, they'll never ask you.
It's only when you've paid the price to be ready for your success that you're in a position to take advantage of your opportunities when they arise, and they will always arise. And the most remarkable thing is this: the very act of preparation attracts to you, like iron filings to a magnet, opportunities to use that preparation to advance in your life. You'll seldom learn anything of value or prepare yourself in any area without very soon having a chance to use your new knowledge and your new skills to move ahead.
Join us next time on Something Ought to Be Said About That as we continue our conversation on setting goals.